Hi, section 10. What? Welcome to your video critique for your magazine spread design. I obviously earlier posted a poll where you could opt in to have your design critiqued, and that's what this lovely video is. So I'm going to go ahead and try to go through here on the order that your submissions were posted on the Facebook page, so hopefully they'll be easy for you to find. We'll start with Rebecca and then work our way down, Chelsea, tests, etc. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started with you, Rebecca. We're gonna probably keep the images kind of small so that I can look at them all as part of a unit. The first thing I noticed, and I actually mentioned this, and I want to tell everyone, please watch the short video that I did earlier that is talking about general trends that can apply to most of the designs that I'm seeing. Okay, so one of the things that I mentioned in that video, Rebecca, is to try to avoid strokes on your shapes. That's going to help your design look a lot more contemporary. So go in and click on these triangles and these squares that you made and deselect the stroke. And that is going to kind of just help this look a lot more modern. The other thing I think is I like these colors, but I don't sense a real strong color theme. We have the blue here, yellow, green, pink, purple, and so it's a lot of colors. So I would probably recommend kind of paring them down. Maybe you want to go with the blue and the yellow from your images, and then select one other color from the color wheel that will really help complement those colors. Okay, so I think that will kind of help this pop out. So here you have the blue and the yellow. Maybe you want to select a nice orange and kind of have a triad color scheme working for you. Okay, something like that could kind of help it be eye-catching without being without competing too much with all those other colors. Another thing I noticed is you have so many words here on this page. I would really love to see you take at least a few of these paragraphs out, introduce a lot more white space, make these images bigger. You did a great job with your text wrap here, but this would be so much more powerful if it could be a lot larger. So if you could scale this big and have these words really wrap around it, it's going to look much better. Also think about playing with color here on your headings. I think this is a good opportunity you have to maybe, if you go with blue and yellow and orange, you could make these all orange or something like that, okay? Another thing is this font has been around for a long time, and honestly, it's not my favorite, the contrasting font. So if you could go ahead and look at the font and try to find one here, maybe something like this, that looks fresh, looks contemporary, but has kind of the same feeling. I like the feeling that you're going for, but not necessarily this typeface exactly. And I would also probably remove the stroke that you have here on these words as well. And I think that'll really help you, and on this image. Okay, I think that'll really help. Another thing you could do is pull this image so it's going off the page, so it's a full bleed, and that's going to make it look really nice. I'm assuming you took these images, which is great. Keep on working on those things. This might look really nice. You could put it kind of in the middle here and have these two columns wrap around it. And so just play around with this a little bit. A big thing is color and also all the shapes. And I think adding in more white space is going to be very helpful for you too. All right, thanks, Rebecca. I'm so excited to see your final submission. Let's go ahead and go down to Chelsea. You opted in, it looks like. So we have a Mothers Who Know. This is really cool. I like your colors. The orange and the white looks really good together. This looks like a nice, big, bold heading. I do think that the K, the top of it, is a little bit too close to the mothers, and I would like to see the alignment a little bit better. So maybe make Mothers Who just a tiny bit bigger so the edge of this M is perfectly aligned with the edge of your K down here. Your lines look really nice. This is a little awkward where the image ends though. So I might either bring it down so it ends on this line or bring it up so it ends on this line. This is getting hard to read though. So it might be better if you scaled it down and then you could have this white um, column here on the orange. And you might even need to make the orange a little bit darker so that this white really pops. Be sure to turn off your hyphens. I showed how to do that in the short video that I just posted. And then let's take a look at this. Be sure to bump over this column so it's not quite so close to your image, but I really like how you creatively have placed your image in the middle of the page. That's clever. I would consider making these subheadings a lot bigger. They're not sticking out right now. There's no contrast to them. So you want to do something, you want to play with your colors. Maybe you do orange and kind of acid green color scheme, and these titles are in acid green, and you pull out that really cool contrasting font you're using. Also, okay, this isn't the most contrasting font. Both of these are serifs. This almost looks like it could just be this font all in caps. So I'd really love to see you play around with a nice serif or something kind of fun, maybe from the handwritten section of the font. Why don't you go in? You can go into serif. You could do something like this. Something like this if you want to keep a serif, but see how this has some really interesting variation to the strokes that tells you this is obviously different than this body typeface that you're using. Or something like this that, where did it go? This one looks obviously very different from the other ones because it is such an extreme transition. Even better than that, if you want to go with a sans serif, you could play around with something like this that would look really strong with the contrast of your serif font here. And imagine that on each of these subheadings. That would look really good. Another thing I want to tell you that I mentioned in the video is remember you don't have to use the full article because it looks like you have, there's a lot of words. And so go ahead and I would probably minimize this article by a fourth or a third and just say read more on lds.org, okay? And that will let you add in some white space. You can make these headings bigger. You can even just take off a few of them and end, which would be really nice. And I would consider try to find a little bit something extra you can do to this page. Maybe you add in some more of those white lines just in order to make sure this page feels like it's cohesive with the rest of the pages that you have. Okay, so there are some thoughts for you, Chelsea. I look forward to seeing your final draft. Okay, let's see. Jonathan, you opted in. Let's go ahead and take a look at your submission. Immediately, I can tell you're going to need to do the same thing. A lot less words, more white space. Cut your article off. You want to make it shorter so you can have interesting designs, interesting shapes, repeating elements without having so many words squished in. I like how you have this nice, big, bold title. I would say go even farther, okay? Make it even bigger. Remember, you don't want it center aligned necessarily, so try playing around with having it left aligned or even right aligned. For your subheadings, you could do the same thing. If you have this big title right aligned, you can have your subheadings right aligned as well, which will add extra element of interest. Oh, this is super hard to read. I think it might just be the quality of the JPEG that you uploaded. So I can't tell if you have hyphens turned on or anything like that, but I would add some extra visual elements in here. It's looking a little bit boring. I think the title and the strong headings will help with that, but maybe you want to add in a little bit more white space. You could pull the image. Oh, there we go. That was weird. That took a long time. Okay. Oh, I like how you have the sans serif. I would consider justifying it. You need to take off the hyphens, like I mentioned in the video earlier. You could play around a little bit. Let me see what your next page looks like. Play around a little bit more with the color. I'm not getting a clear color scheme right now. I have pink. The last page was kind of orangey. This one is green. And then just white and black for your typefaces. So I need to have a clear color scheme coming through. If you want to do, you know, kind of an orange, go ahead and look at a color wheel and hopefully that will help you. Oh, my computer's being slow right now. Look at a color wheel. Maybe you decide you want to have blue as a contrasting typeface. And so you have strong blue headings, or if you want to do pink and green, that's fine. I would probably increase the saturation so they're not so muted. And I'm not quite sure what this is, Jonathan Paskett's photos. I would take that off since it's magazine article. And you don't need to have this here since this is going in a magazine, okay? Oh, here we go. Stop script. That must be what it was. Okay, so take the hyphens off of here too. Ah. My Firefox has stopped working. Restart Firefox. Sorry, Jonathan. Okay, so color is a big thing on yours. Also eliminating some of those unnecessary paragraphs so you can have bigger, stronger headings, and so that you can also have more white space are some of the things that I would recommend. Okay, let's see. All right, here we are back to your design. Okay, and contrasting typefaces. You do have that big title contrasting, but play around with adding contrasting typefaces to your subtitles too, which will help. Okay, so start playing around with some of those things. Feel free to email me if you want to have me look at your second draft as well. All right? Come on, computer. All right, we just finished up with Jonathan, so let's see who is next. Heidi. All right, Heidi, you managed to get all three on one page, which is awesome. And I do love this drawing that you did. That looks great. I also like that you figured out how to do this text wrap. It looks really good. You could consider bringing it in maybe a little bit. I like it on the sides, but it's pretty tall here up on the top. So you can go back into the text wrap and bring down the top portion a little bit and the bottom portion. You also might be able to just bring this image down. And so the box ends in alignment with the end of this paragraph. And that will probably eliminate the worry down here. And then you'll just have to do it on the top. I do also want to remind you that the images need to be taken by you. I'm not sure if you took this image of the alligator and the one of the binocular. So these two need to be personally taken images by you. I did see, I think someone said to bring in your text wrap so it's not quite so wide. I totally agree with that. I would pull it in a little bit. I love how you have this on the page with the elements wrapping around it though. You did a good job making your headings bold. I almost would like to see this alligator even bigger, crocodile. So if you could make him bigger and not have his eye be right on the seam, I would be fine with you eliminating some of this wording here and allowing the images to kind of speak a little bit more for themselves. I like this highly saturated blue, and you have the yellow that's kind of matching with the chain link. I might match this background color to this one a little bit better. This background is looking nice, but I want to see a little bit more saturation to match the intensity of this crocodile. So see how these colors are so rich? It then falls a little bit flat to have such a light yellow. Maybe you can match it to this yellow up top instead, or this blue here, okay? I can't tell if you have hyphens on. It doesn't look like you do, which is great. So I would just focus. I would probably try to pull this paragraph up a little bit from the bottom, see if you can kind of get it to end on about the same place as this one. So you have a nice clean line down here. And you could also play around with justification. That might help this ragged edge look a little bit better. How you do that, I showed you earlier on the short video, but you just select the portion that you want and you're going to click this Justify All Lines button right here, okay? So those are some of the things I would probably work on for yours, Heidi. Okay, let's go ahead and go down to, oh, I tried making a color scheme based on the colors with the crocodile picture. Yeah, okay. Just a little more contrast and saturation I think would help. Okay, Cynthia, you opted in. So here are your drafts. Oh, this is, let's see, oh, and here's your page 2 and 3. Okay. So one of the things I noticed, I love this big, strong, bold flower, but it does make this very hard to read. So one thing that you could do is you could crop this image in half. And so you have maybe half of the flower on the page, and then you have a really big, strong title that I would make even bigger. I would make By Sharon Eubanks a lot smaller, maybe just one small line, and then Women Are the Glue, big, huge heading. Remember, don't center a line. We want to avoid that when we're starting out. So I want to see this and this heading down here, either left aligned or right aligned, and I think that's really going to help. This is a nice, strong typeface that you're working with. I really like it. And you can keep this one, or if you want to add a little bit more variety, go ahead and feel free to look at the serifs on dafont.com. On an earlier video that I just posted, I showed you how to download these, okay? So you can play around with something that might look a little bit more modern, but I think this typeface would actually be fine as long as you go bigger and bolder, okay? Let me go ahead and take a look at your page 2 and 3. I would say don't have the headings just at the top of the page. That's not what we're looking for. We're looking for subheadings which go in the article and let you know what the next portion of the article is going to be about. So you have maybe one right here that says Service and Relief Society, and then the next paragraph is about that. And maybe right here is the Bonds of Unity. Okay, so I like that you have these. Just make sure they're actually in the body portion of your writing. This is really difficult to read. I would probably avoid doing the yellow on the black and white, and make sure you have a text wrap somewhere. I think that's one of the requirements for the assignment, is that you have one of the minimum expectations is, let's see, you do need to have one pull quote and one word wrap around an image or shape. So make sure you have that, okay? Also avoid putting the shapes just in line with the columns. Instead, see, here's a good example. You don't want the shapes just kind of small and down here. You want them inserted and working with the text. See how the text works around this temple? See how this circle breaks up these columns? So I think that's something that will really help. Your words would also look really nice justified. That's this button right up top under paragraph. I think that would really help these columns look good. And then also I would work on your color scheme. Your first cover page is actually really saturated and eye-catching, but then when you get to this one, it becomes a lot more, baby nursery colors, I guess. And so I would try to make these colors match the colors on your first page in intensity. And if you want to have this strong black and white image, maybe your subheadings are in black. Maybe you have this in black. So play around a little bit, add in some more contrast, try to add in some things that are really going to catch your eye and break this up so it looks like something you want to read, okay? So you're on the right path. Just keep on going with that. All right, so that was Cynthia. Let's go ahead and go down Tess. Okay, Tess, you opted in. Page 1, page 2, page 3. Okay, first of all, I really like this image. It's catching my eye a lot. And remember, you need to have taken your images. So I'm going to assume you took this one. But if you didn't, make sure they're images that you personally have taken. Okay, the first thing I noticed is that this heading really is not doing a lot for me. It's pretty similar. No, it is similar. It's the exact same as your body copy. So you definitely don't want to do that. You want to have a totally different and very attention-getting headline. Okay, something that looks like this. See how big these headlines are? See how they catch your eye? See how they're a totally different typeface than the ones down here. So that's what we want to do. If you want to keep this image, if this is your image, up here you would have the hope of eternal family love, and to contrast that typeface, the typeface that's in your body, you would probably need to go with a sans serif. So maybe you have something like this, okay? I would also make the size of your typeface for the body a lot smaller. And I like that you creatively made it right aligned here. But for body copy, you do probably need to keep it left aligned. That's just a general rule for the actual body copy in a paragraph. Any other time, go crazy, right align, left align. Usually don't center align. But I would like to see a nice strong line here on the side, which is what I'm missing since you did the right alignment here. So go ahead and make this left aligned, and then do something really bold, go out of your comfort zone, make it huge, make it interesting with this title. Okay, let's take a look at page 2. Same thing. Oh, you inserted these. These look really nice, but I want to see a little bit more white space between the end of this paragraph and your subheading. Okay, so a little bit more space here. Definitely, I don't know, this maybe is like a 14 typeface. Knock it down to a 10 or an 11 or a 12. And once you do that, you're going to end up with more white space, so you can have more space between your headings. I would probably play around with the placement of this too. If you could maybe bring it up into the middle, I think that would look better. And play around with the fonts here. This is a little bit too close to the top, so you might want to bring it down instead. Okay, so let me see what your other page looks like. Well, that's this one. Okay, so see how a nice strong left alignment is going to kind of eliminate this awkward, ragged white space in the middle? I think that'll help you out. You can get rid of this web address here. I don't think you need that on the actual assignment. All right, so since you're going to have more space because you're going to make this typeface a lot smaller, you can then play around with doing a few different things, like making this take up more space in the middle, making your headings bigger, making your subheadings bigger, doing things that are going to give your eye a place to rest on the page, which is going to be really helpful. All right, and just make sure that those images, like I said, were taken by you. Okay? So good start, Tess. I look forward to seeing the edits that you're going to make. Next, let's see who has opted in. Chantel, you opted in. Perfect. Okay. Let me just glance at them all. Okay, first thing I want to point out is you do have to have at least 2 columns instead of this long left to right. All right, so make sure when you're in here, you're going to insert your typeface, your typography, and then you're going to go through and you're going to grab this little shape. Okay, you're going to grab it and you're going to make a column beside the ones that you've already made. Okay, and that's going to add some nice contrast. It's going to make it a lot easier to read. It looks like you might have too much in terms of wording, so feel free to pare down, cut a lot out if you need to, say read more at lds.org, so you don't feel like you have to shove all of these words in here and make your images super small. This image, I would recommend probably pulling it so it goes off the page. You want to have nice big images. This is a little bit too much, looks like it was designed in Microsoft Word. You want something that's super eye-catching instead of just a timid image set in there. Here you played around with the text wrap, which is good. It looks like you need to increase the amount of space around your text wrap, and that will bump these words to the next page. Like that you have contrasting typeface in here, that looks good. It's going to look a lot different when you have the columns. Make sure you have subheadings. I'm not seeing any of those, so you need to have this that breaks up the actual article. Okay, so see how I have these subheadings? They're a different typeface, they're a different color, they're bigger, and that's really going to help break up your body copy as well. And then let's take a look at your intro page. I would get rid of this stroke with the drop shadow. It looks cool, but it's been around for a long time, and so it immediately actually dates the design. So if you do that, what you then do is you want to not center align your heading. You want to make your heading even bigger, believe it or not. You want to take this pretty image and maybe put it in the middle instead. You want to pull some of this pink out, maybe some of the green. I need to see more colors here on your page, more design elements. Maybe you make a nice pink shape in the background or green shape in the background, something that's going to give my eye more to look at on this gray page instead of just this very small image. Okay, so I like how you have the spacing in between these paragraphs. That looks really nice. Just play around with making it more eye-catching and challenge yourself to do things that are going to be even bigger, even bolder. Okay, and that'll definitely get you heading in the right direction. Let's see who else has opted in. Clarissa? Nope. Claudia, yes. All right, Claudia. Let's take a look at yours. Okay, good. You are definitely on the right track. I love how you have this wrapped around the circle. That looks really good. Your pull quote is really attention grabbing. It's nice and large. This looks good. The only thing I really don't like very much is your intro page. Remember, you have to have taken these images, okay? They have to be taken by you. Is this you? That's funny. If this is you, then I'm gonna laugh. But I'm gonna laugh only because I know that you didn't take the picture, which is unfortunate because this is actually a super cool picture. If you want to leave this picture here, just add 2 other pictures that you personally have taken, okay? So add a picture you've taken here and a picture you've taken here, perhaps. You figured out justify, which is great. I would like to see a little bit more white space. Maybe that means you need to make your typeface a little bit smaller. This looks kind of large. So if you make it smaller, you can add in those additional images and that'll help you out. The reason I don't think I like this image very much is it looks so faded in comparison to the vibrant fonts you have and the vibrancy and youthfulness of this image. This looks pretty old school and dated, especially when you have this pretty safe font on top of it. Looks like something that could have been designed a long time ago. Now this looks awesome. So play around with this. Maybe you want to keep this typeface, but you make it smaller. You can make it in its own text box and make it a different color. Stick it behind or on top of slightly. This My Heart is Whole, so it overlaps. Okay, so play around with that a little bit. And you do have 3 fonts here. Generally, we want to limit our fonts to 2. but I don't think it says you have to on here, contrasting typography. Well, you have contrasting, you just have 3 contrasting instead of 2. So I'm willing to look past that, but do something to make the contrast here look a little bit more contemporary, and something that adds a little bit more vibrancy, whether it's a different image or maybe your placement changes a little bit. One thing you could do that makes it look more contemporary, instead of having the page kind of fade, maybe you only have half of an image and it stops on the page, or a third of it. And so something like that can help it make a little bit more modern looking as well. Okay, but you're heading in the right direction for sure, and I definitely like what you have going so far. Okay, thanks, Claudia. All right, Rachel, did you opt in? Nope. Okay. Tommy, you opted in. Perfect. All right. So, Tommy, you must remember you have to have personally taken your 2 images. You probably could have taken this one. Let's see if you took the other one, though. I'm going to guess you probably didn't take this image. Unless you're like just walking around during sacrament taking pictures, which you might be, but okay, so switch it out. Make sure you have 2 personally taken images. Another thing that's jumping out to me like crazy is your typeface is ginormous. Okay, we need to shrink this down a lot. For most articles, you want 10 or size 12 typeface. This looks a lot bigger than that. Make sure you turn off your hyphens. I showed you how to do that in a short video that I just posted, but it's right here. You're going to make sure that's not selected, okay? I figured out how to do the text wrap, which is super awesome, looking good. When you have a smaller typeface, it's actually going to look even better because it's going to follow the line a lot better. When you have your hyphens off, it's going to look better too. Next thing is color scheme. I'm not picking up on a very strong color scheme. There's blue, but that's pretty much it. Another thing is I'd like to see your heading a lot bigger and not left aligned. Your body copy is left aligned. So what you want to do is you generally want to have your heading, and you did it cool because you have your heading as part of your spread. So you can have your heading go all the way across. Yes, that's what I said, all the way across the page. And maybe you have Sabbath worship in one font and then a pretty cool script beneath it in drop by drop. Wouldn't that look nice? Okay, so you come into DeFont, you find the calligraphy, you download this, and you have Sabbath worship, big and huge and bold, drop by drop underneath it in a contrasting typeface. Pretty sure these are your subheadings. You want to have those in a contrasting typeface too, maybe even a contrasting color. If you're going with a color scheme of blue, maybe you decide to go with blue and yellow. Or you can do blue and green and orange, something like that. I want to see more color here. Okay, and one thing I'm going to say that hopefully won't be devastating is I don't really love the lines here. I think it would be okay for 1 page, but all 3 pages makes it feel like this has been designed in like Microsoft Publisher and this was just a template that you used. So maybe once you make your typeface smaller, you're going to have a lot more white space. What you could do is you could shrink some of these down. So say you have your big, huge title here, and then you have your nice, tight looking typography that doesn't have these hyphens, and you pull the blue line down so it's around this one. You get rid of it on this page. Maybe this page is all white or all blue. And then on your last page, maybe you keep it. Okay, so give me some variety, something different on each page, or something that's not just this big white background with lots and lots of writing and large typeface on it. And I think that's going to help you out. You did a good job with your text wrap. It would look even better, even bigger, okay? Part of the problem is you have so much trapped, well, you don't have a lot of trapped white space, but it's what little amount of white space is, it's all trapped. your eye cannot get off the page to save its life, okay? So remember, you need to have parts of the page where your eye can flow off and not get boxed in. So if you have a box, it's all right, but make sure that you have parts where you don't. Another thing I just realized I think you're missing is a pull quote. So make sure you have something that looks like this, where you have a quote pulled out of your body copy, right? So there's a few things to think about, huh, Tavi? I look forward to seeing your final submission. I'm sure it's going to look great. Rhonda, you are next. You opted in. Okay. All right. First thing I noticed right off the bat, well, I really like this color you selected. That's great. With the yellow, I'd like to see the yellow even more vibrant. But the first thing I noticed is you super duper need to have columns, okay? We don't want to have our eye going all the way across the page ever, ever, ever. So you're going to split these into columns like they showed you how to do on the design video. Remember, if you can't, essentially you can make a column. My favorite way to do that is you've inserted your typeface and your body copy. You come over, you click this red plus sign, and then you're going to go beside your already existing column and insert it, okay? Then you can play this around, you can move it around, and you're going to end up with something that's going to look like this, okay? Where you have these nice two columns side by side. I like how you have contrasting typography here. This, oddly enough, feels really squished together to me. Like the letters are really close. I like this typeface, but I'm not quite sure what's going on with it. Possibly you played around with this feature and maybe made your letters closer together than they were. And if you did that, I would probably change it because it's just looking a little bit squished. But I love how you have this nice, bold, contrasting typeface right here. This looks really good. But I would probably avoid center aligning it. You do have this center aligned image, which I'm hoping this is an image you took because both of the images do need to be taken by you. Sorry, I'm just looking at this right now. Ugh, surgery. Oh no. That's no fun. Okay, so I think when you break these into columns, it's going to be really helpful. You could then do a text wrap around this image of the Savior that hopefully you've taken. You could make this maybe left aligned. If you want to leave it center aligned, since this image is center aligned, I'm actually okay with that in this rare circumstance. All right, let's take a look at the other pages again. Your pull quote, I think this would be a good opportunity for you to wrap your text around it. And then this font, if you could please change it, it would make me super happy because this font has been around for forever. Go to dafont.com, download something. I just showed you how to do that on the video that I uploaded earlier tonight. So make sure you take a look at that. Or what would work even better is use the same typeface that you used on your heading. Also, color-wise, try to match this color with this so that you have a color scheme. I'm missing that right now. And you remember you need to have two images, not just one. Looks like you have a lot of words. Feel free to chop these words down, get rid of a third of this, just add a little tiny sentence that said read more at lds.org. Give the web address. You don't have to include every word. Instead, we want the importance to be on having all of the elements that you need to have on there. Okay, so keep on working at it. You're heading in the right direction. Just need to add some more variety, some more contrast, another image, and do some wrapping around one of your quotes. Okay, thanks, Rhonda. I look forward to seeing what your final submission is going to look like. Okay, yep. Cynthia did a great job of showing you what that could look like. Even better, I would love to see more white space on the page. So maybe you end right here and you have a cool image that goes all the way off the edge of the page. Or you have an image that goes all the way off the edge of the page, top to bottom, and is a third of the page. Something like that could look really good. Okay, let me scroll down to next person. All right, Andrew. Pictures aren't mine. Awesome. Okay. I think I've seen this image before. Okay, I like how you did this text wrap around your circle. It's looking really good. Here you have, I would like to see these subheadings a little bit bigger. I think that would look nice. I like how you have the yellow here. I'm assuming you have a blue-yellow kind of color scheme going on, kind of that teal and yellow. There's another pull quote. I think it would be great if you want to be even bolder, pull this image all the way off the edge of the page. Don't be timid, make it big, make it bold, pull it off, and that's going to look even better than having it stopping just short of the page. You probably did that because you feel like you have to align it, which isn't a bad idea, but it will look even more contemporary for a magazine spread to have your images not have any kind of awkward space between them and the edge of the page. Make sure you pull this subheading down. It looks like it would go right here. And making this image a little bit bigger probably will help that. I think your typeface is a little bit too big too. You want to be in the 10, 11, 12 size. If this is 12, boom, move it down to 11. And I would add in some spacing because holy cow, this like your reader never gets a break visually. That's a lot to read in one paragraph. And it looks like it even started the page before. So break these into paragraphs, make them smaller, make it more easy to digest. Good place to do that would be here at the beginning of a quote. Okay, so that would help make this a little bit easier to digest, not quite so much typeface because there's really no white space on this image. Make sure you have some white space and that's going to help you out. Here, I'm assuming you're going to have a big image in the background. This super duper looks like the cover of an LDS handbook. And I'm going to recommend you push yourself more than that. You can do a lot more when it comes to contrast, okay? So I would make this title a lot bigger, play around with your colors, you do 2 contrasting typefaces. I would get rid of the viewpoint and maybe even the contributed by the church news. And maybe you have church's humanitarian work in this typeface, which I'm assuming is the same as this one. And then you have continues to lift burdens in a typeface that has a lot of contrast to it. Okay, because right now these do contrast, but like this is so small, I really don't get a feeling of contrast between this and this. So what you want is you want this smaller, your subheadings bigger, and then this like bam, jumps off the page, catches your eye. You're so intrigued because what continues to lift burdens? So you really need to have something that gives you a visual pop off the page. And this is a good page to introduce your color scheme to. So if you have an image that you can introduce that color scheme that you continue, that's going to be really good. For this one, if you see how it's kind of unbalanced, you have this white space here. This is a good opportunity to pull this up and have more white space at the top or at the bottom. And if you want to, if you're running out of room, you can even get rid of this last section and add in some white space, add in some yellow, add in a yellow shape, make this image even bigger, have it go off the page partially. So you have a super huge circle and you have maybe just one column wrapping around it and you have a lot of room for your eye to rest. Okay, so there are some ideas. Obviously, you don't have to do that, but that's just an example of what you could do that would help make this even more eye-popping. All right, so I look forward to seeing your final submission, Andrew. Woohoo! You're the last one. All right, everybody have a good night.